Hello and welcome to the second episode of my retro remake series. For this one I have chosen one of my other favorite series of all time, Metal Gear. When speaking of a retro remake of Metal Gear, most people will probably think of Metal Gear Solid on PS1, but we are going to go real old school for this one, and remake the very first game in the series, which is Metal Gear on NES. Now, my own first experience with the Metal Gear series was actually with Metal Gear Solid on PS1 as well. It wasn't until I saw an episode of the Angry Video Game Nerd reviewing the game, that I discovered the original Metal Gear. So join me as I recreate this iconic game in Unreal Engine 5, and stick around till the end of the video to see what I came up with. Let's get started. In this game, the player takes on the role of Solid Snake and the objective is to infiltrate an enemy base. The game's defining feature is its stealth gameplay, where the player must sneak around to avoid detection from enemies who patrol the area. I decided to start with creating the enemies first. The behavior that I wanted to go for was that they patrol a predefined path. And if they detect the player, they start chasing and attacking him. First task was to set up an enemy that can follow a path. I started by creating a simple character. Then I created an AI behavior tree for it, so that it can follow a path. I used something called a spline, which basically allows you to get points on a line, to determine the path he would follow. With the patrolling ability in place, next task was to give the enemy the ability to see the player and chase him around. To do this, I added a sight component to the enemy, which allows him to track player's location when he is in field of view. Afterwards, I made him go to the last place he saw the player at, when he could not see the player anymore. And finally, in case he couldn't find a player, I made him search the area he last saw the player a little bit, before going back to his normal patrol route. But it is not enough for the enemy to just see the player. I wanted him to be able to hear the player as well, just in case players decided to run up on him from the back. To do this, I added a hearing component to the character, which allows the enemy to detect noises inside the yellow area around him. Now that the enemy had the basic abilities to find the player, I wanted to focus on the player. But before that, I decided to add a gun to the enemy. So I found a gun model that I liked, and added it to the enemy together with a shooting animation. And here is the enemy with everything put together. Now moving on to the player. First task was to give him some way to attack the enemies. After some thinking, I decided to go for a knife.
Boss, we don't draw weapons on comrades.
I started with setting up the animations. Next I wanted the player to be able to kill the enemy. I started with adding a hit box to the knife, so I can detect when the knife is hitting the enemy. Then, I set up a ragdoll death animation for the enemy. Naturally, I was very excited to see how this would turn out. And this is what I got. Well, that was something, but I needed to make him stop doing that when dead. But after some tweaking, I got it. Also added some blood splash effect for good measure. So far, we have a player that can hit the enemy. But the enemy should be able to hit the player as well. To do this, I started by setting up the bullets. I could create a separate bullet object, but decided to trace a line in front of the gun to simulate the bullet instead, and added blood splash effects when player gets hit. And of course after enough bullets have hit the player they should die. To do this, I added a health bar to the player first, and then when he gets hit with enough bullets, he dies. Now with the enemies and players' basic mechanics in place, I wanted to work on the level a bit. I wanted to go for the same layout as the one in the NES game, so I started by blocking out the level accordingly. Now a little test to see if the enemy AI works well in the new level. Okay, moving on. Next we have the second enemy type, which are these nice little doggy enemies. I started by looking for some models, and I found one that I liked. But I could not bring myself to kill these guys, so I decided to go for a robotic version instead. The AI setup was pretty similar to the previous enemy, with them patrolling and attacking the player on sight. But they have wheels that they use when chasing the player at higher speed, which makes them more difficult to get away from. Now that I had all the main gameplay elements in place, I wanted to work on the level some more. So that is what I did. Now the moment of truth. Let's see how the level looks in real time. I would say that looks pretty good. I was feeling good about the progress I had made so far. But there were still things I wanted to do before finishing up. First, I wanted to change the enemy and player character models.
No, wait!
After some search, I found this model, which I liked for the enemies. And then for the player, I found this one, which I liked. I also decided to add some fog to the level for extra effect. Much better. Now with everything coming together, only one thing remains. You guessed it, the cardboard box.
Don't move!
To do this, first I added a box to the player, and set it to invisible by default. And then on button press, the player model is hidden, and the box is shown instead. Okay, now the moment of truth. Let's see how the game plays. Alright guys, thanks for watching the video till the end. I hope you enjoyed seeing this classic game reimagined in Unreal Engine 5. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Catch y'all later.